Hello and welcome back to the Sneaker-Nomics podcast. I'm Ishan and I'm here with Ryan. Hello, Ryan.
Hello.
So today we're going to talk about a contentious subject, something that has struggled with economists. We're going to talk about why do retailers sell their shoes so low, knowing that the resale market is only going to sell them for higher. Ryan, do you want to shed some light on the situation?
Yeah, it's a pretty big kind of topic, really. I suppose if you're looking at economics and sneakers, it's probably the main one there. Obviously, you see sneakers being resold for upwards of £1,000, and realistically, it seems a bit stupid almost. Like, why aren't Nike selling their Jordan Chicago's off for £600 each when they know they can sell them for that much? But realistically, it all comes down to some economics within the kind of company of trying to maintain a hype. If you look at the sneakers they sell in these limited quantities, they're not the main aspect of their profit. It's a small margin overall with obviously the massive company.
No, I couldn't agree more, Ryan. I think the thing with Nike is their business model. They've grown. Phil Knight has grown so much since the '60s, and obviously in the time in the '70s, '80s, '90s, all the way up to the tens, the decades. This last decade, sneakerheads weren't really a thing, and so his business model is all around just selling shoes, cheap, reliable, good quality shoes that you can wear out. The night joggers, for example, the Air Forces that will go with anything that are staples in your clothing. But what Nike and the creative designers at Nike have noticed is this huge market, and they've tried to create their own one with the sneakers app, for example, and events like Nike Day, which has just built this whole buzz around the whole brand, which something that their brand wouldn't have had even 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's like bringing out the sneakers app and obviously doing these limited sales. Not every sale goes through and is fully successful. There's still shoes on there from months ago, yet they obviously keep dropping new shoes and trying to bring up hype and advertising, not even through typical ways, but on the sneakers app, having backgrounds of the shoes. There was the Japan collection where there was there was obviously the collaboration with Sakai, where there was a lot of hype built up, a lot of difference about the shoes, and they didn't sell them for that much, and there wasn't a huge amount sold. So the profits on them wasn't huge, yet you see the Sakai's being sold for £400 plus. And obviously, why didn't they cash in on that? Well, the Sakai's garnered so much hype across Instagram and all other kind of social platforms that the Nike brand just keeps getting out to more and more people. I think that is a key point as to why these sneakers that are so valuable just being sold for so little when it comes to Nike.
I couldn't agree more again. But I think the interesting thing is Nike are they're making their say in the designer industry. They're making the things like the Sakai's or like the kaleidoscope shoes they made with the 97s. They've made them into a fashion statement as part of your costume, as something you can wear to London Fashion Week, which just happened last week. And the only way they can really compete with the Mason Margielas or the Raf Simons of the world is basically by selling low for their target demographic and getting them to create their own buzz using like the background and stuff of the shoe that they'll put on their app. What I'd like to talk about as well is Nike Day. That was just recently. I think it was on the 8th of August. It was quite contentious. It was quite a controversial subject in terms of what happened on the day. It was actually a working day, so a lot of the sneakerheads couldn't get out and search for the shoes. So what happens on Nike Day is they created these shoes. They made these shoes, limited edition shoes that had sold out, and they'd basically placed them in special parts of London that you would travel to, and if almost like Pokemon Go, you could just scan the shoes and you would be able to almost get them for a discounted price. Obviously, they're limited edition as well. And that's obviously the whole resale hype as well. Those shoes will resell for almost 3-4 times the price that you'd find them at. But yeah, the problem was that a lot of the people would be going around 4 or 5 p.m. Working, and then the shoes would just be released, and the unemployed people or the younger people would just get them before them, and they'd run out really quickly. So how do you think they'd be able to make that any better? How would they make Nike Day a thing that people remember more and targets more demographics?
I think when it comes to maybe just releasing them throughout the day, and like maybe just obviously choosing a weekend is the easiest way to do it. Rather than, I know it's a special day and stuff, but if you bring maybe the actual day you have some special releases just on the Sneakers app, but then over the weekend you let people know about it, you get people to be prepared, and then every hour or so you release a couple locations, people go and find it. We have a real kind of AR adventure kind of thing. Get things to scan, get discounted sneakers, and everyone's a bit happier. Obviously, if you don't want to go and trek all the way up to London if you don't live close, there's no need to. But for those people that really want to, some sneakers that maybe are unattainable for them, it's a really good way of doing that. I think if they just bought into it more and got a larger proportion of their consumer base to kind of get involved in it, it might be a bit more of a success. But so, I mean, there was obviously enough people doing it, but the kind of hype around it wasn't quite the same, as it wasn't achievable by so many people, I think.
I think that's totally right. But they've definitely got something holding these events like Nike Day, because the designers like Louis Vuitton and Balenciaga, they simply just don't have time for that. That's just not their business model. That's not how they get to their target customers. But with Nike, such a big company, with this kind of micro market that they've sustained, I think that might be a really big thing to look forward to in the future. And especially with technology, you were talking about AR, which, if you don't know, is it's basically virtual reality, and you can kind of find things that are 3D in front of you. Yeah, they get kind of...
Yeah, it's augmented reality. So you use your phone, you scan an area or something, and then a little prop show up on your phone. So it gives you this different aspect of the world, as if you're walking around in a VR headset and there's a camera pointing out, but there's other things you can interact with your phone, much like obviously you had the apps like Pokemon Go, and they were huge when they first came out. It's that kind of standard. You see things on your phone with a real life background, so someone's just there on a green screen, and you can interact with them and change it. And there's a lot of apps going around now which are really using that feature to their best.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a big future, a big market in the future, especially in the next 10 years. We don't know what's happening with technology, but it's really happening fast. So yeah, that's basically it on how we think retailers get away with selling their shoes so cheaply, and basically work with the resale market in spite of it almost being a competitive market. They still work with it to get more customers. Is there anything you wanted to say, Ryan?
Yeah, if I may add as well, you've obviously got the collection with like Off-White when it kind of first came out, and the shoes they sold then, they weren't new shoes, they weren't new models, they were just the old styles that they'd been reinvented. So you had, obviously, you've got your MX-90s, you've got your 97s, you've got your Vapor Max, obviously a new shoe, but they're the new take. And those shoes were expensive and a bit unattainable, but you then look at those shoes and it brings up a lot of hype around them, and then people can go online and find cheap alternatives. And I think that's another big thing as a reason as to why they sell these shoes with a lot of hype around them and generate a lot of interest, so that people who can't necessarily afford them shoes will then go and buy the cheap alternatives that maybe don't have as much around them, yet they still look good and people wanted to buy them. And obviously they've just been brought in by these specialist designs that only a few people can get.
No, I think something that's changed in the last 30, 40, even 50 years is creating an emotional attachment with shoes, creating this psychological, mental attachment to a product. For example, like you said, the shoes that they come from the 90s. I have a pair of the Air Maxes. And, I've actually, it skipped my mind what Air Maxes they are. Yeah. So I have a pair of the Air Max Light Atmoses, and they basically use scraps of parts of the 90s, the 90s Nike, and created a shoe out of it. And that creates so much emotional attachment that you want to buy it. And what's interesting is that you work at Sports Direct, obviously. And there you can see that example of people trying to go for the cheaper options. And Sports Direct have made shoes that are very similar to the Yeezys, the Nike Air Maxes. They've made shoes that are similar, that they can sell for 20, 30 quid. People will buy them because they want to be like the people with the Yeezys for the cheaper price tag.
Yeah, it's an entire other market as well. Like Yeezys is the other big one, which obviously when they first were on the scene, the resale market for them was incredible as well. And especially with that, I don't think Yeezy made a profit in its first years because it was not selling enough shoes. But you look at it now, there's not a single drop of the pair of Yeezys that doesn't sell out. And they're able to drop more and more, and they're kind of dropping the same things that still garners the interest of people. And you're just having this business model, which at the start maybe didn't seem like they'll make much money, but now they're pumping out shoes and they're still being sold because they're so popular with people. I think it's another take on it, in the kind of way that, like Nike, but they've just done it in a more modern way. Instead of starting up with a big base, you usually kind of brought its way up, being small and limited, but now it's a much more popular product. It's shifting off the shelves very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, on that subject of Nike versus Adidas, our next episode is actually going to be comparing the Nike, the new things they've made with the Alpha Edge, with Adidas, and the new things they've done with Alpha Edge and their Ultra Boost, compared to the Nike Reacts and the Elements, and how are Nike and Adidas trying to boost the technological side of their shoes, basically to beat the other competition. So join us next time. That'll be on our next